In the aftermath of the Zarnik's rampage, humanity was forced to confront the consequences of its actions. The devastation in Los Angeles served as a grim reminder of the creature's power and intelligence. Streets were littered with debris, buildings reduced to rubble, and thousands displaced from their homes. Governments around the world declared states of emergency, scrambling to contain the crisis while grappling with public outrage. The dream of conquering the Zarniks had turned into a nightmare, leaving Earth vulnerable and humbled. Ethan Carter and Clara Bennett worked tirelessly alongside the Vorthak to devise a new strategy. With trust between humans and aliens strained, they knew cooperation was the only way forward. "We can't fight this thing alone," Ethan told a room full of military leaders and scientists. "The Vorthak know more about the Zarniks than we do. If we don't work together, we're finished." Reluctantly, Colonel Ryan Dawson agreed, though his skepticism lingered. "Fine," he said. "But if this goes south, it's on all of us." The Vorthak revealed a plan born out of desperation, luring the Zarniks into a massive containment zone using advanced energy fields. These fields would trap the creature without harming it, allowing both species to study it further and find a permanent solution. It was risky. The Zarniks had already proven capable of breaking free from seemingly impenetrable restraints, but it was the best chance they had. Humanity provided resources and manpower, while the Vorthak contributed technology and expertise. For the first time since their arrival, the two species truly collaborated. Jack Monroe, shaken by his role in unleashing the Zarniks, volunteered to help implement the plan. He led a team tasked with setting up the energy field generators in a remote desert location chosen for its isolation. "I started this mess," he admitted to Mia Torres and Daniel Kim, who joined him. "It's my job to fix it." Though battered and weary, the trio worked side by side, determined to make amends. As the containment zone neared completion, the Zarniks began moving toward the area, drawn by signals emitted by the generators. Its approach was slow but deliberate, as if it sensed a trap yet couldn't resist the challenge. Military units positioned themselves at safe distances, ready to intervene if necessary, while Ethan and Clara monitored the operation from a command center. Tension hung thick in the air as everyone waited for the final showdown. When the Zarniks entered the containment zone, the energy fields activated, forming a shimmering dome that sealed it inside. The creature roared in fury, slamming against the barrier with enough force to shake the ground. Sparks flew as its claws scraped across the invisible walls, but the fields held firm. For the first time, the Zarniks appeared trapped and confused. The success of the operation marked a turning point. Humanity learned a hard lesson about greed and hubris, realizing that exploiting the Zarniks had only made things worse. Public fascination with the creature faded, replaced by calls for conservation and respect for alien life. Restaurants stopped serving mock dishes, and markets pulled Zarniks-themed merchandise from shelves. People began reflecting on how close they had come to disaster. Colonel Dawson softened his stance toward the Vorthak, acknowledging their role in saving Earth. "Maybe we misjudged them," he admitted during a meeting. "They came here looking for help, not harm. And now we got a second chance to get it right." Ethan nodded, relieved that tensions were easing. Clara found solace in studying the Zarniks within its containment zone. She hoped to uncover ways to coexist with it, rather than destroy it. Meanwhile, Jack returned to his old ways, but with a new purpose. Instead of hunting for sport, he dedicated himself to protecting endangered species, both on Earth and beyond. Though the Zarniks remained a mystery, its presence reminded humanity of its place in a vast and unpredictable universe. Somewhere in the galaxy, the creature continued to roam, neither fully understood nor tamed. But for now, peace had been restored. And perhaps, just perhaps, humanity had grown wiser because of it. The turning point came when Jack Monroe and his team returned to Earth with something unprecedented: a live Zarnik specimen. Captured during their latest expedition, the creature was held in a reinforced containment unit aboard their ship. News of the capture spread like wildfire. igniting celebrations across the globe. For many, it felt like humanity had finally claimed victory over the galaxy's deadliest predator. But as the Zarnix was paraded through major cities in its cage, few realized the danger they were courting. The creature was massive, even restrained, its jagged exoskeleton glinting under bright lights as crowds gathered to catch a glimpse. Its glowing eyes darted back and forth, scanning the humans who cheered and jeered at it. Some threw objects at the cage, while others took selfies with the monster in the background. The spectacle was broadcast live on every major news network, drawing millions of viewers. Reporters described the event as historic and a triumph of human ingenuity. Jack stood proudly beside the cage, answering questions from journalists. "This proves we can handle anything," he declared. "Even the Zarnix isn't invincible." But Ethan Carter and Clara Bennett watched the broadcast with growing dread. "This is a disaster waiting to happen," Clara muttered, pacing her lap. "That thing isn't just an animal. It's intelligent. And now it knows exactly where we are." Ethan nodded grimly, his eyes glued to the screen. The Zarnix didn't struggle or roar like it had during previous encounters. Instead, it remained eerily still, its gaze fixed on the crowd. It was as if it were biding its time, waiting for the right moment. Their fears proved justified sooner than anyone expected. During a live television segment in downtown Los Angeles, the unthinkable happened. As the camera zoomed in on the Zarnix's glowing eyes, a loud crack echoed through the air. The reinforced bars of the cage began to buckle, twisted outward by an unseen force. Within seconds, the Zarnix broke free, its claws slicing through metal as if it were paper. Panic erupted as the creature lunged forward, scattering the crowd. Chaos unfolded in an instant. People screamed and ran in all directions, trampling one another in their desperation to escape. Cars screeched to a halt, blocking streets as drivers abandoned their vehicles. The Zarnix moved with terrifying speed, its massive form crushing everything in its path. Buildings crumbled under its weight, and power lines sparked as they were torn from their poles. Emergency services scrambled to respond, but their efforts were futile against such a monstrous force. Jack Monroe, who had been standing near the cage moments before, barely escaped with his life. He dove behind an overturned truck as the Zarnix roared, its deafening cry shaking the ground. "It's not supposed to be this strong," he shouted into his radio, trying to warn others. But communication channels were overwhelmed, flooded with panicked calls from citizens and officials alike. Military units arrived within minutes, deploying tanks and aircraft to contain the situation. Plasma cannons fired repeatedly at the creature, but the shots only seemed to enrage it further. Each blast left shallow marks on its armored skin, but nothing slowed it down. The Zarnix retaliated by swiping at helicopters, sending them spiraling out of the sky. Soldiers retreated hastily, their weapons useless against the rampaging beast. As the destruction continued, Ethan and Clara worked frantically to find a solution. They analyzed video footage of the breakout, searching for any weakness they might exploit. "It's adapting," Clara said, pointing to the way the Zarnix avoided direct hits from plasma bolts. "Every attack makes it smarter. We're running out of options." Colonel Ryan Dawson coordinated the evacuation of Los Angeles, ordering civilians to flee the city as quickly as possible. Streets turned into rivers of people, cars honking and sirens wailing in the background. The Zarnix pursued relentlessly, leaving devastation in its wake. By nightfall, much of the city lay in ruins, smoke rising from collapsed buildings and fires burning unchecked. The world watched in horror as the events unfolded, realizing too late the cost of their hubris. Humanity had underestimated the Zarnix once again, and now it was paying the price. Somewhere amidst the chaos, Jack stared at the towering creature, his earlier confidence replaced by fear. "What have we done?" he whispered, knowing full well that the nightmare was far from over. Tensions between Earth and the Vorthek reached a boiling point as humanity's obsession with the Zarnix continued to grow. The aliens, once hopeful for refuge, now watched with growing distrust as humans prepared more hunting expeditions. Ethan Carter and Clara Bennett found themselves caught in the middle, trying desperately to maintain trust between the two species. But the cracks were widening, and neither side seemed willing to back down. Colonel Ryan Dawson became increasingly vocal about his suspicions of the Vorthak. He argued that their warnings about the Zarniks were exaggerated, perhaps even fabricated. Why would they run from something they could have destroyed? He demanded during a meeting with military leaders. They've got advanced weapons, better than anything we've seen. Why didn't they use them against the Zarniks? Something doesn't add up. His question struck a chord with many. Rumors began circulating that the Vorthak might be using the Zarniks as an excuse to manipulate humanity. Some suggested they had engineered the creature themselves, while others speculated it was part of a larger plan to invade Earth. These theories gained traction online, fueled by bloggers and conspiracy theorists eager to exploit public fear. Even some government officials started questioning the Vorthak's true intentions. Ethan and Clara tried to counter these claims, pointing out the evidence of the Zarniks' existence and its devastating impact on the Vorthak homeworld. But their arguments fell on deaf ears. Public opinion was shifting, and people were quick to believe the worst. Protesters gathered outside facilities where Vorthak representatives met with human leaders, holding signs that read, "No alien lies," and "Earth first." The atmosphere grew hostile, making cooperation harder than ever. Meanwhile, intercepted transmissions between the Vorthak ships revealed troubling information. Hidden messages hinted at a secret strategy involving Earth, a plan to lure the Zarniks away from their worlds by using humanity as bait. When Colonel Dawson presented this intel to his superiors, it only deepened the divide. "I told you they couldn't be trusted," he said, slamming the documents onto the table. "They're not here for help. They're here to save themselves, no matter the cost to us." The revelation forced Ethan and Clara into an impossible position. They wanted to defend the Vorthak, but couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. Clara spent sleepless nights analyzing the transmissions, searching for any context that might explain the messages. She approached one of the Vorthak representatives, her voice trembling with frustration. "Is this true?" she asked. "Are you using us?" The alien hesitated before responding, its telepathic voice heavy with regret. "We did not wish to deceive you," it said, "but our survival depends on finding a solution. If drawing the Zarniks to your world keeps it from ours, then yes, we considered it. We hoped you would understand." Clara felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over her. She relayed the conversation to Ethan, who looked equally conflicted. "They're desperate," he admitted. "But does that make it right? What happens when the Zarniks comes here? Are we ready for that?" As debates raged among human leaders, preparations for new hunting missions continued. Jack Monroe led several teams back to the Vorthak homeworld, each time returning with harrowing tales of close encounters. The hunters brought back trophies, pieces of the Zarniks' exoskeleton and claws, which were paraded through cities and displayed in museums. Crowds cheered, celebrating humanity's supposed triumph over the galaxy's deadliest predator. Yet beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to show. Reports surfaced of hunters losing entire teams to the Zarniks, their ships destroyed or abandoned. Videos leaked showing the creatures working together, their attacks becoming more coordinated and calculated. Scientists studying the recovered samples noticed strange patterns in the Zarniks' biology, signs that it was adapting, evolving to counter humanity's tactics. Ethan and Clara shared these findings with military officials, urging caution. "This isn't just a hunt anymore," Clara warned. "It's escalating. Every time we go after the Zarniks, we're teaching it how to fight back." But her words went largely unheeded. Humanity was too consumed by pride and greed to see the bigger picture. One evening, as Ethan stared at images of the Zarniks' glowing eyes, he muttered under his breath, "We're walking straight into a trap." Somewhere in the galaxy, the creature waited, patient and relentless, ready to turn humanity's hubris into its greatest weapon. The team's return to Earth was met with a mix of awe and disbelief. News of their encounter with the Zarniks spread like wildfire, thanks to live broadcasts sent back during their mission. Footage of the creatures' glowing eyes, razor-sharp claws, and relentless attacks captivated audiences worldwide. People were both terrified and fascinated, unable to look away from the images of humanity's first brush with such a deadly alien predator. Jack Monroe, Mia Torres, and Daniel Kim became overnight celebrities. Interviews filled their days as reporters bombarded them with questions about the Zarniks and what it felt like to face something so monstrous. Jack described the hunt in vivid detail, emphasizing the danger but also hinting at the thrill of going up against the ultimate challenge. His words struck a chord with many, sparking a surge of interest in hunting the Zarniks. Social media exploded with hashtags like #ZarniksHunters and #AlienPredatorChallenge, while businesses rushed to capitalize on the trend. Restaurants began creating mock dishes inspired by the Zarniks meat Clara Bennett had tasted aboard the Vortex ship. Street vendors sold Zarniks burgers made from ordinary beef, while upscale chefs crafted elaborate meals they claimed mimicked the flavor profile of the alien creature. Food bloggers raced to review these creations, posting photos and videos that drew millions of views. The fascination wasn't limited to food. Online marketplaces saw a spike in demand for Zarniks-themed merchandise, from t-shirts to action figures. But the obsession didn't stop there. Entrepreneurs and adventurers petitioned governments for permission to organize more hunting expeditions, arguing that humanity could turn the Zarniks into a resource. Some suggested harvesting its tough exoskeleton for armor or using its powerful claws as weapons. Others dreamed of capturing live specimens to display in zoos or research facilities. The idea of conquering the galaxy's deadliest predator became intoxicating, overshadowing warnings about its intelligence and ferocity. Colonel Ryan Dawson watched the frenzy unfold with growing unease. He called Ethan Carter and Clara Bennett into his office, slamming a newspaper onto his desk. The headline read, "Can Humans Dominate the Zarniks?" Dawson's face was red with frustration. "This is exactly what I was afraid of," he growled. "They're treating this like some kind of game." Clara sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's not just the public," she said. "Even some scientists are talking about studying the Zarniks in controlled environments. They think we can learn from it, maybe even replicate its abilities." Ethan nodded grimly. "But they're forgetting one thing. The Vortex couldn't stop it. If we're not careful, we'll end up making things worse." Despite their warnings, the momentum was impossible to stop. Governments caved to pressure, approving limited hunting missions under strict guidelines. Teams of experienced hunters, scientists, and military personnel were assembled, each equipped with advanced technology designed to take down the Zarniks. Jack Monroe was asked to lead several of these expeditions, his earlier success making him a symbol of human determination. Though hesitant at first, he eventually agreed, eager to prove that humanity could rise to the challenge. Meanwhile, the Vortex grew increasingly uneasy. Their pleas for caution went largely ignored, drowned out by humanity's excitement. When Ethan and Clara met with them aboard their ship, the aliens expressed their fears openly. "You do not understand what you are dealing with," one of the Vortex said telepathically. "The Zarniks is not just a predator. It is a force of destruction. Your actions will only make it stronger." Ethan tried to reassure them, promising to advocate for restraint. But deep down, he doubted anyone would listen. Humanity had already tasted the allure of the Zarniks, and now it craved more. Restaurants continued serving mock dishes, markets sold fake relics, and hunters prepared for their next expeditions. The line between curiosity and exploitation blurred, leaving little room for reflection. As the weeks passed, Clara found herself haunted by the Vortex words. She replayed the footage of the Zarniks' attacks, studying its movements and behavior. Each time, she noticed something new, a flicker of intelligence in its glowing eyes, a calculated pause before striking. It wasn't just an animal. It was thinking, learning, adapting. And yet, humanity refused to see it as anything other than prey. One evening, as she sat alone in her lab, Clara whispered to herself, "We're playing with fire." Somewhere beyond the stars, the Zarniks waited, patient and relentless, ready to remind them of their mistake. The team returned to their camp battered but alive, their minds racing with what they had just experienced. The Zarniks was everything the Vorthak had described, and more. Its speed, strength, and intelligence made it a nightmare to face. Jack Monroe sat by the fire, cleaning his weapons while replaying the encounter in his head. He couldn't shake the image of the creature's glowing eyes, or the sound of its roar echoing through the forest. "We got lucky," he muttered to himself, though the words felt hollow. Luck wouldn't save them next time. Mia Torres tended to a cut on her arm, wincing as she applied antiseptic. "That thing is no ordinary predator," she said, glancing at Jack. "It didn't just attack. It thought. It changed tactics when we hit it with the explosives." Daniel Kim nodded, adjusting the settings on their motion trackers. "And it stopped chasing us for a reason," he added. "Maybe it was testing us, seeing how far we'd go." Their conversation was interrupted by a distant rumble, faint but unmistakable. The ground vibrated slightly, and the trees swayed as if caught in an invisible wind. Jack stood up, gripping his rifle tightly. "That doesn't sound like one Zarnix," he said, his voice tense. "It sounds like more." The team exchanged uneasy glances. They had assumed the creature hunted alone, but now they weren't so sure. Before they could decide what to do, the motion trackers began beeping wildly. Multiple blips appeared on the screen, moving fast and converging on their location. "They're coming this way," Daniel shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Mia grabbed her plasma rifle, while Jack barked orders. "Pack up the essentials. We need to move. Now." The team scrambled to gather their gear, throwing supplies into backpacks as the ground shook harder. The rumbling grew louder, accompanied by low growls that sent chills down their spines. Jack peered into the darkness, his heart pounding. Then they emerged, 3 Zarniks, each as massive and terrifying as the one they had fought earlier. Their claws scraped against the earth, and their glowing eyes scanned the area hungrily. "There's too many of them," Mia yelled, firing a shot at the nearest creature. The bolt struck its chest, but the Zarnix barely flinched. It roared, charging forward with incredible speed. The team split up, dodging the creature's attacks as chaos erupted around them. Trees splintered and crashed to the ground as the Zarnix tore through the forest, their movements coordinated and relentless. Jack fired his rifle repeatedly, aiming for weak points in their exoskeletons. One of the creatures stumbled after taking a direct hit to its leg, giving him a brief moment to breathe. But before he could regroup, another Zarnix lunged at him, its claws narrowly missing his head. He rolled to the side, scrambling to reload his weapon. "We can't win this fight," he shouted to the others. "We need to get out of here." Mia and Daniel were already running toward the ship, their footsteps crunching against the alien soil. Jack followed close behind, dodging trees and debris as the Zarnix pursued them. The creatures moved faster than he expected, their roars shaking the air. Just as they reached the edge of the clearing where the ship was parked, one of the Zarnix leaped ahead, blocking their path. Its massive form loomed over them, its claws raised high. "Daniel, get the ship started," Jack yelled, firing his rifle to distract the creature. Daniel fumbled with the controls, his hands trembling as he entered the launch sequence. Mia aimed her plasma rifle at the Zarnix, firing repeatedly to keep it at bay. Sparks flew as the bolts hit its armored skin, but the creature refused to back down. Finally, the ship's engines roared to life, and the ramp lowered just enough for them to climb aboard. Jack sprinted up the ramp first, shouting for Mia and Daniel to hurry. As soon as they were inside, Daniel sealed the hatch and activated the thrusters. The ship lifted off the ground, leaving the Zarnix roaring in frustration below. Breathing heavily, the The team collapsed onto the floor, their bodies exhausted and their minds reeling. They had escaped, for now, but the memory of those glowing eyes haunted them. The Zarnix wasn't just a predator, it was a force of nature, and they had underestimated it at every turn. The team followed the tracks cautiously, their footsteps crunching softly against the alien terrain. The air grew heavier as they moved deeper into the forest, the strange, glowing sap dripping from twisted trees casting an eerie light around them. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the creak of branches, set their nerves on edge. They knew the Zarnix was nearby, but its exact location remained a mystery. Jack Monroe led the group, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. Behind him, Mia Torres kept her plasma rifle ready, while Daniel Kim monitored their motion trackers, his fingers flying over the device's controls. "We're getting close," Daniel whispered, pointing to a blip on the screen. "It's moving parallel to us, maybe 50 meters ahead." Jack nodded, signaling for silence. He raised his hand, gesturing for the team to spread out slightly, ensuring they wouldn't be caught off guard if the creature attacked. The tension was palpable, each breath shallow and deliberate. No one spoke, afraid even the smallest noise might draw the Zarnix's attention. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees, deep and guttural. It wasn't far away. Everyone froze, their hearts pounding. Jack slowly turned his head, searching for the source of the sound. Then, without warning, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A massive shadow emerged from the darkness, stepping into the dim glow of the forest. The Zarnix towered above them, its jagged exoskeleton glinting like polished steel. Its long claws scraped against the earth as it moved, its glowing eyes locking onto the intruders. "Stay calm," Jack said under his breath, though his voice betrayed a hint of fear. The creature tilted its head, almost as if studying them. For a moment, it seemed hesitant, perhaps unsure whether these small beings posed a threat. But then it roared, a deafening sound that shook the trees and sent birds scattering into the sky. The team reacted instantly, diving for cover as the Zarnix lunged forward with terrifying speed. Mia fired her plasma rifle, the bright blue bolt striking the creature's side. Sparks flew as the shot hit its armored skin, leaving only a faint scorch mark. "It's not enough," she shouted, reloading quickly. Daniel aimed his harpoon spear, firing it at the Zarnix's leg. The weapon pierced its thick hide, causing the creature to stumble. It let out another roar, this time filled with rage, and swiped at the nearest tree, sending it crashing to the ground. Jack seized the moment, sprinting toward the Zarnix with a modified explosive charge in hand. He dodged its sweeping claws, sliding across the uneven ground as he reached its flank. With a grunt, he slapped the charge onto its side and rolled away just in time. The explosion rocked the area, sending chunks of the creature's exoskeleton flying. The Zarnix staggered, injured but far from defeated. Its movements became erratic, wild swings of its claws tearing through everything in its path. "We need to fall back," Mia yelled, grabbing Jack's arm as debris rained down around them. "We can't take it down like this." Reluctantly, Jack agreed, signaling for the team to retreat. They ran as fast as they could, weaving between trees and leaping over fallen logs. The Zarnix gave chase, its heavy footsteps shaking the ground behind them. Just when it seemed like they wouldn't escape, the creature stopped abruptly, letting out a final ear-splitting roar before turning back toward the forest. Breathing heavily, the team regrouped at a safe distance, their bodies trembling with adrenaline. "That was insane," Daniel gasped, clutching his chest. Mia nodded, her face pale. "We got lucky," she said. "If it hadn't decided to stop chasing us." She didn't finish the thought. Jack stared back at the forest, his expression unreadable. "We wounded it," he said finally. "Next time, we'll be ready." But even as he spoke, doubt lingered in his mind. The Zarnix wasn't just strong, it was intelligent. It had studied them, adapted to their tactics, and nearly overwhelmed them. This was no ordinary predator, and now it knew they were here. The idea of hunting the Zarniks gained momentum faster than anyone expected. Social media was flooded with posts about the creature, blending fear with excitement. People debated its strength, intelligence, and whether it could truly be hunted. For many, the thought of capturing, or even eating, the deadliest predator in the galaxy became an irresistible challenge. Among those eager to take on the task was Jack Monroe, a rugged outdoorsman known for his survival skills and love of adventure. Jack had spent years exploring remote corners of Earth, from dense jungles to icy tundras. He thrived on danger, always seeking the next big thrill. When he heard about the Zarniks, his interest was immediate. "This isn't just another hunt," he told his team over video call. "It's a chance to prove we're ready for anything, even something that scares the aliens." His words resonated with Mia Torres, a skilled survival expert, and Daniel Kim, a tech genius who specialized in modifying equipment. Together, they formed the core of what would become humanity's first Zarniks hunting expedition. Their plan quickly gained attention, drawing support from both adventurers and entrepreneurs. A wealthy sponsor offered funding in exchange for exclusive rights to broadcast their journey, while weapon manufacturers provided experimental gear designed to handle the Zarniks' tough exoskeleton. Colonel Ryan Dawson reluctantly approved the mission under strict conditions. The team would stay in constant contact with Earth, avoid provoking the Vorthek, and prioritize safety above all else. Despite his approval, Dawson remained uneasy, warning Ethan Carter and Clara Bennett that this could end badly. Ethan and Clara shared his concerns but knew there was no stopping the expedition now. Public pressure had reached a fever pitch, and governments were reluctant to appear weak by denying the mission. Instead, they focused on preparing the team as best they could. Clara briefed them on everything she'd learned about the Zarniks, emphasizing its intelligence and unpredictability. "This isn't like hunting a bear or a shark," she warned. "It's smarter than you think, and it won't back down easily." Jack listened intently, nodding as he scribbled notes. "We'll be careful," he promised, though his confident tone suggested otherwise. "If we can bring one down, we'll send a message to the Zarniks, the Vorthek, and to ourselves. We're not just victims waiting to happen." The day of departure arrived, and the team boarded a retrofitted spacecraft bound for the Vorthek homeworld. The ship was equipped with advanced navigation systems, reinforced hulls, and enough supplies to last months. As they left Earth's atmosphere, Jack stared out the window at the shrinking blue planet below. "Ready for this?" Maya asked, joining him. He grinned. "Born ready." Upon reaching the Vorthek homeworld, the landscape was nothing short of alien. Jagged mountains rose like broken teeth against a sky tinged with green and purple hues. Thick forests stretched across valleys, their trees twisted and gnarled, oozing a strange, glowing sap. The air smelled sharp, almost metallic, and the ground crunched underfoot as if laced with shards of glass. It was clear this was no ordinary environment, and neither were its dangers. As the team set up camp near the edge of a forest, Daniel tested their equipment, ensuring everything worked properly. "Motion trackers are online," he reported. "If the Zarniks comes within range, we'll know." Mia double-checked their weapons, which included plasma rifles and harpoon-like spears designed to pierce the creature's armored skin. Jack paced nearby, scanning the horizon with binoculars. "Let's hope we find it before it finds us," he muttered. Hours turned into days as they ventured deeper into the wilderness, following signs of destruction left by the Zarniks. Crushed trees, claw marks etched into stone, and eerie silence where life should have thrived, all pointed to the presence of the predator. Tensions ran high, especially when strange sounds echoed through the night. Low growls and distant roars kept everyone on edge, unsure whether the Zarniks was watching them or simply passing by. On the fourth day, they found fresh tracks, massive imprints sunk deep into the ground. Jack knelt beside one, running his fingers along its edges. "It's close," he said, his voice low. Excitement mixed with fear as the team realized they were about to come face to face with the deadliest creature in the galaxy. Whether they were ready for what came next remained to be seen. The Vorthak invited a small group of humans aboard their ship for a cultural exchange dinner, hoping to strengthen the fragile bond between their species and humanity. Ethan Carter and Clara Bennett were among the guests, along with a few diplomats and military officers, including Colonel Ryan Dawson. The event was meant to foster trust, but tension still lingered in the air. As they stepped into the dining hall, the humans were greeted by an array of strange sights and smells. The room was dimly lit, with glowing patterns on the walls that shifted like waves of light. Long tables stretched across the space, covered with dishes that looked nothing like Earth food. Some items shimmered like liquid metal, while others pulsed faintly, as if alive. Clara felt a mix of curiosity and unease as she examined the offerings. "What is all this?" she whispered to Ethan, who shrugged, equally puzzled. A Vorthak representative approached them, its elongated body moving gracefully. "This is our way of sharing ourselves with you," it said telepathically. "We hope you will find it pleasing." The aliens gestured toward the food, encouraging the humans to try it. Most hesitated, unsure what to make of the bizarre display. But Clara, ever the scientist, decided to take the first step. She picked up a small spoon-like utensil and scooped a bit of a gelatinous substance onto her plate. "This one is safe," the Vorthak assured her. "It is a nutrient-rich compound we consume daily." Clara nodded and took a cautious bite. To her surprise, it wasn't bad. Slightly sweet, with a texture like jelly. Encouraged, she moved on to another dish, this time selecting what looked like cooked meat. The Vorthak explained that it came from remnants of fallen Zarnix hunters. "It is a reminder of our struggle," they said solemnly, "and a symbol of resilience." Clara hesitated for a moment before tasting it. Her eyes widened as the flavor hit her tongue. It was rich and savory, unlike anything she'd ever eaten. Wordlessly, she motioned for Ethan to try it. He raised an eyebrow, but eventually gave in, taking the small piece. His reaction mirrored hers, shock followed by delight. "This is incredible," he muttered under his breath. Word of the discovery spread quickly among the human delegation. Soon, others began sampling the Zarnix-based dish, marveling at its taste. Even Colonel Dawson, who had been skeptical of everything the Vorthak did, couldn't hide his interest. "If this thing tastes this good, maybe hunting it wouldn't be such a bad idea," he joked half-seriously to one of his aides. His comment sparked murmurs of agreement among some of the attendees. Back on Earth, news of the dinner leaked to the public through social media posts by members of the delegation. Videos showed humans trying alien food, with captions like "First taste of space cuisine" and "Is this what Predator tastes like?" People were fascinated. Restaurants started experimenting with mock versions of the dish, calling it Zarnix-inspired or Alien BBQ. Food bloggers raced to recreate recipes based on vague descriptions, while underground markets buzzed with rumors of smuggled samples brought back from the Vorthak ship. Ethan and Clara watched the frenzy unfold with growing concern. What had started as a gesture of goodwill was quickly turning into something else. Humanity's fascination with the Zarnix seemed to shift from fear to obsession. "They're treating it like a game," Clara said one evening as they reviewed footage of the latest viral trend. A chef attempting to grill Zarnix-style steaks. "Like it's just another animal to hunt." Ethan nodded grimly. "And once people see it as prey, they'll forget why the Vorthak are here in the first place. They'll forget how dangerous it really is." He paused, staring at the screen. "We need to remind them before it's too late." But reminders didn't come easily in a world hungry for novelty. Within days, petitions began circulating online, demanding permission to organize hunting expeditions to the Vorthak homeworld. Adventurers and thrill-seekers argued that humanity could help eliminate the threat of the Zarnix, while claiming its resources for themselves. Politicians debated the issue, torn between caution and opportunity. Meanwhile, the Vorthak grew increasingly uneasy, sensing that their plight was being overshadowed by human greed. As the debate raged on, Clara found herself reflecting on the dinner that had started it all. She remembered the solemn expression of the Vorthak as they explained the significance of the dish. It wasn't meant to be consumed lightly. It was a tribute to their suffering, a reminder of what they had lost. Now, humanity was reducing it to a fad, a fleeting trend to satisfy curiosity and appetite. And somewhere in the galaxy, the Zarniks remained, an ancient, relentless force waiting to be underestimated once again. The days following the Vorthak's arrival were a whirlwind of activity. Ethan Carter and Clara Bennett spent long hours analyzing every detail they could gather about the aliens and their mysterious predator, the Zarniks. Back at Area 51, computers buzzed with data as scientists worked around the clock to decode the information shared by the Vorthak. The aliens had provided samples of materials from their ship, fragments of Zarnik's exoskeleton, and even recordings of the creature in action. Each discovery only deepened the mystery. Clara stared at a video clip on her monitor, watching the Zarniks move with unnatural speed. Its massive body was covered in jagged plates that glinted like steel under the dim light of the Vorthak homeworld. Long claws extended from its limbs, slicing through trees and buildings as if they were made of paper. "It's not just strong," she murmured to herself. "It's fast, too. And look at this." She pointed to the screen where the Zarniks paused mid-attack, tilting its head as though listening for something. "It's smart." Ethan leaned over her shoulder, frowning. "Smart enough to adapt," he said. "If it can learn, then we're dealing with more than just brute force. This thing could outthink us." He straightened up, rubbing his temples. "And if the Vorthak couldn't stop it, what chance do we have?" Despite their concerns, humanity reacted to the news with a mix of fascination and fear. News outlets around the world broadcast images of the alien ship and artist renderings of the Zarniks based on the Vorthak's descriptions. Social media exploded with theories and jokes, some people dismissing the threat, while others panicked about an impending invasion. Governments scrambled to prepare for any possibility, but no one knew how to handle a situation like this. Colonel Ryan Dawson remained skeptical of the Vorthak's intentions. He paced the command center, his boots clicking against the tiled floor. "They show up out of nowhere, tell us they're running from some super predator, and expect us to believe them." He growled to one of his officers. "What if this is all a setup? What if they're the real threat?" His suspicions weren't unfounded. While the Vorthak appeared cooperative, there were gaps in their story. For instance, why hadn't they destroyed the Zarniks themselves? With their advanced technology, surely they had weapons capable of fighting back. And why had they chosen Earth as their refuge? These questions gnawed at Dawson, making him reluctant to trust the aliens fully. Meanwhile, Ethan and Clara tried to focus on building a relationship with the Vorthak. They attended daily meetings aboard the alien ship, learning more about their culture and struggles. The Vorthak explained that they had once been a peaceful species, thriving on their homeworld, until the Zarniks appeared. At first, they thought it was just another animal, albeit larger and fiercer than most. But as attacks grew more frequent and devastating, they realized the creature wasn't merely hunting, it was waging war. "They call it the Shadow Death," one of the Vorthak told Ethan during a meeting. "It hunts without mercy, consuming everything in its path. We tried to flee, but it followed. No matter where we go, it finds us." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. If the Zarniks could track the Vorthak across space, then Earth might not be safe either. Still, he pushed aside his fears and focused on finding solutions. "Is there anything we can use against it?" he asked. "Any weaknesses you've discovered?" The Vorthak hesitated before answering. "Its size makes it vulnerable in tight spaces," they admitted. "But it is relentless. Even when injured, it does not stop." Back on Earth, tensions continued to rise. Some people saw the Vorthak as allies, victims of a shared enemy who deserved help. Others viewed them as invaders, bringing danger closer to home. Protests erupted outside military bases and government buildings, with crowds chanting slogans like "Protect our planet" and "No alien refugees." Amid the chaos, Ethan and Clara found themselves caught between two worlds. They wanted to help the Vorthak, but they also understood the risks involved. Late one night, as they reviewed data in the lab, Clara turned to Ethan with a troubled expression. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" she asked softly. "Helping them, doesn't it make us targets too?" Ethan sighed, leaning back in his chair. "I don't know," he admitted. "But if we turn them away, we'll never forgive ourselves. Besides, maybe helping them is the only way to protect ourselves in the long run." As the days passed, humanity began preparing for the worst. Military units trained for potential encounters with the Zarniks, while scientists worked tirelessly to develop new defenses. Yet beneath the surface, doubts lingered. Were they ready for what was coming? Or were they walking blindly into a disaster beyond imagination? A massive alien ship descended from the sky, its shadow stretching across the dry sands of the Nevada desert. The ground trembled slightly as the enormous craft hovered above the barren landscape, blocking out the sun. People nearby stopped what they were doing, their eyes glued to the strange sight. Some recorded videos on their phones, while others simply stood frozen in awe. It was clear that this was no ordinary event. The world held its breath. The alien ship emitted a low hum, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the very air. Then a voice boomed, not from speakers, but directly into the minds of everyone within miles. "We come seeking refuge," it said, the words calm yet urgent. Humanity listened, unsure whether to feel hope or fear. Among those watching was Ethan Carter, an astrophysicist stationed at Area 51. He had spent years studying the stars, searching for signs of life beyond Earth. Now, here it was, right in front of him. His heart raced as he tried to make sense of what was happening. Nearby, Clara Bennett, a xenobiologist working alongside Ethan, felt a mix of excitement and unease. She had always dreamed of meeting extraterrestrial life, but she never imagined it would happen like this. The aliens' message was vague, offering no explanation for why they needed refuge. Were they running from something? If so, what? And why had they chosen Earth? These questions swirled in her mind as she prepared to gather data about the ship. As the hours passed, more details emerged. The aliens called themselves the Vorthak, a species with advanced technology far beyond anything humans had achieved. Their ship was unlike anything on Earth, sleek and metallic, with glowing patterns that pulsed softly along its surface. Through communication devices set up by scientists, the Vorthak explained that they were fleeing their home planet after being attacked by a monstrous predator. They called it the Zarniks, a creature so deadly it had driven them to the brink of extinction. Ethan listened carefully, his brow furrowed in thought. "If they're asking for our help, we need to understand what we're dealing with," he told Clara. She nodded, already thinking about how to analyze samples from the ship. But not everyone shared their cautious optimism. Colonel Ryan Dawson, a stern military officer overseeing the situation, wasn't convinced the Vorthak could be trusted. He paced back and forth, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. "What if this is a trick?" he muttered to one of his aides. "They show up out of nowhere, begging for help, and expect us to just roll out the welcome mat." Despite Dawson's skepticism, preparations moved forward. A team of scientists, including Ethan and Clara, was selected to board the alien vessel for further discussions. As they approached the towering ship, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into uncharted territory. The Vorthak greeted them warmly, their elongated bodies shimmering under the dim lights inside the ship. They spoke telepathically, their thoughts clear and precise, explaining their desperate situation. Clara studied the aliens closely, noting their graceful movements and curious expressions. She noticed something else too, a faint smell of something burnt, almost metallic, lingering in the air. It made her uneasy, though she couldn't explain why. Meanwhile, Ethan focused on gathering information, asking questions about the Zarniks and why it posed such a threat. The Vorthak hesitated before answering, as if reluctant to share too much. When they finally did, their description sent chills down Ethan's spine. "The Zarniks is unlike anything you've ever encountered," one of the Vorthak said. "It is intelligent, relentless, and nearly unstoppable. Our weapons are useless against it." Ethan exchanged a glance with Clara, both of them silently acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Whatever the Vorthak were running from, it was bad news. And now, it might be coming to Earth. As the meeting came to an end, Ethan and Clara stepped off the ship, their minds racing with possibilities. Humanity had just taken its first step into a larger universe, but whether it would lead to cooperation or catastrophe remained to be seen. One thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again.